Urban Institute, University of Manchester, UK. And for that purpose, I would like to request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sir, and Saliha to facilitate our guest. Next, we would facilitate the Dr. Kalyan Rudra, Chairman of West Bengal Pollution Control Board, Government of West Bengal. And for that purpose, I would like to invite Dr. Aznarul Islam to kindly facilitate our guest. Next, I will request Saliha and Rakib to kindly facilitate our guest, Dr. Shohab Fazal, Chairperson, Department of Geography, Aligarh Muslim University. Now I request Arindam and Parumita to kindly felicitate Registrar and Dean Students Welfare, Professor Nurul Huda Ghazi, sir. Arindam and Parumita. Now I request Kashmira and Soumitra to kindly felicitate Dean, Faculty of Science and Technology, Professor Kaushik Kundu, Alia University. Kashmira and Soumitra. I request Sushmita and Suman to kindly felicitate Controller of Examination, Alia University, Professor Mehdi Kalam, sir. Now I request Rakib and Kashmira to kindly felicitate Deputy Registrar, Alia University, Dr. Sheikh Ashfaq Ali. Thank you very much. Let me begin that this collaborative initiative brings together different scholars from India, England and Japan, and this two-day academic endeavor organized by Department of Geography, Alia University in collaboration with the University of Manchester, Hokkaido University, Manbhum Anand Ashram Nityanand Trust and MerseyRiver Trust seeks to provide a vibrant platform for young researchers and platform that will allow them to explore emerging ideas. Formally commence today's proceedings, I would like to invite Dr. Nasreen Banu, Assistant Professor, Department of Geography, Alia University, to deliver the welcome address.
Distinguished guests, esteemed scholars, policymakers, esteemed colleagues from India, United Kingdom, Japan, very Good morning to all present here. It is my privilege and honor to welcome to the workshop and training program being organized by the Alia University from 5 to 9th January 2026 under the ISPF ICSSR collaborative project entitled Exploring Policy Mobility for the Local Solutions and Community Resilience Through Natural Flood Management, a comparative study of the MerseyRiver Basin, England, and the Silaboti River Basin, India. At the very outset, I extend my heartfelt gratitude and welcome to our Chief Patron, Professor Rafiqul Islam, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Alia University, Kolkata. Sir, your visionary leadership, unwavering commitment to the academic excellence, and constant encouragement to the research-driven initiatives continue to inspire us. Your esteemed presence elevates the stature of this program and provides a guiding academic and ethical compass, infusing our deliberations with purpose, integrity, and vision. I also extend my heartfelt welcome to our chief guest, Sri Manish Jain, IS, Additional Chief Secretary, Irrigation and Waterways Department, Government of West Bengal. Sir, your vast administrative experience and exemplary contribution to the water governance and infrastructure development bring invaluable practical insights to the program. Due to some unavoidable reasons, we didn't able him today. It is also my privilege to warmly welcome our guest of honor, Dr. P.B. Salim, Secretary Minority Affairs and Madrasa Education Department, Government of West Bengal. His distinguished service in the field of education and minority welfare stands a source of inspiration. Due to some unavoidable circumstances, again we didn't able him today. I take this opportunity to welcome our patron, Professor Nurul Huda Gaji, Registrar, Alia University, whose administrative guidance and constant support play a crucial role in the smooth functioning and academic growth of the university. I would also like to place on record my sincere gratitude to Dr. Kollan Rudro, Chairman, West Bengal Pollution Control Board, Government of West Bengal. We are deeply honored by your presence, which will undoubtedly provide new direction, relevance, and vigor to this training program. I also extend my welcome to Dr. Vivas Chandra Barman, Director, River Research Institute, West Bengal. Your presence enriches this program and reinforces the vital link between inclusive governance and academic engagement. Now, I have honored to warmly welcome our distinguished special guest, whose presence adds immense academic and institutional strength to this program. I extend very warm welcome to Professor Saifullah, Dean, Faculty of Humanities and Languages, Alia University, Professor Kaushik Kundu, Dean, Faculty of Science and Technology, Alia University, Kolkata, for their academic leadership and interdisciplinary outlook, which add great value to this program. A very sincere welcome to Professor M.D. Mehdi Kalam, Controller of Examination, Alia University, for its continuous efforts in strengthening the research ecosystem of the university. I also warmly welcome Dr. S.K. Asfaq Ali, Deputy Registrar, Alia University, for your administrative support, cooperation in making this program possible. I extend a very welcome to Dr. Sachindranath Majumdar, Finance Officer, Alia University, Kolkata. Your active cooperation in all regards, especially finance decision, we are immensely benefited from your suggestions. We are truly honored by the presence of our special guest, whose collective guidance and encouragement continue to inspire our academic endeavors. It is indeed a privilege to welcome our distinguished resource person, Professor Joe Ravage, Director, Mind Lab Laboratory for Collective Intelligence, Manchester Urban Institute, the University of Manchester, United Kingdom. Your presence brings global academic insight and intellectual richness to this program, and we look forward to your valuable interactions. I would like to take the moment to express my profound gratitude and heartfelt thanks to esteemed Professor Sahab Fazal, Chairman, Department of Geography, Aligarh Muslim University, India, whose constant guidance and scholarly insight and unwavering encouragement have been a source of strength throughout my academic journey. Sir, it is an honor for me to warmly welcome to be the part of this workshop. Your presence deeply valued and continue to inspire confidence, clarity, and purpose in my academic endeavors. I also warmly welcome to Mr. Iklabuk Rashad, a managing trustee of Make Pine Abhijan, New Delhi, India, for their constant encouragement, valuable guidance, perennial support throughout this academic journey. I welcome Professor Mukul Sharma, Department of Environmental Science, Ashoka University, Professor Amrit Singh, Department of English, Bhasha Bhavan, Vishwabharati University, Professor Sanat Kumar Guchai, Department of Geography, the University of Bardhaman, Professor Arup Kumar Bokshi, Department of Management and Business Administration, Alia University, Professor Obhijit Mukherjee, Department of Geology, Geophysics, IIT Kharagpur, Dr. Anuradha Chaudhary, Faculty, Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, IIT Kharagpur, Dr. Jinia Mukherjee, Associate Professor, Humanities and Social Science, IIT Kharagpur, Dr. Amrita Sen, Assistant Professor, IIT Kharagpur, and Professor Ramkrishna Maiti, Department of Geography, Vidyasagar University. I extend very warm welcome to Professor Mir Rezaul Karim, former Dean, Faculty of Humanities and Languages, Professor Mashir Rahman, former Dean and Faculty of Languages, for Professor Abdul Rahim Gaji, former Dean and Faculty of Languages and Humanities, Professor Sharmishta Chatterjee, former Dean, Faculty of Humanities and Languages, and Professor Dr. A.K.M. Anwar Zaman, Head Department of Geography, Alia University, Kolkata, and finally Dr. M.D. Hidayatullah Mir, Chairperson, Alia University, Research and Development Cell. I take the opportunity to welcome Dr. Nirmala Mukherjee from MANT, our non-academic partner, for this tremendous effort to shape our workshop journey, especially while planning the field works at Garbata and Ghatal and the cultural program with the indigenous group. It is my privilege to welcome our media partners from All India Radio and Doordarshan Kolkata for covering us in their news. Mr. Anup is welcome in this regard while corresponding the appropriate persons. I welcome the media persons, Mr. Sanjay from the Telegraph, for overwhelming support and coordinating our programs and possible dissemination in the news media. Although they are my project team members, still I would like to warmly welcome Dr. Rupashok, Dr. Mehboob from the University of Manchester, and Dr. Ram Akhtar, Hokkaido University, Japan, at my institution. Sir, we are grateful for your continued academic engagement and for significantly contributing to this collaborative initiative. Finally, I also acknowledge the invaluable contributions to my colleague and co-principal investigator, Dr. Ajnarul Islam, and the entire organizing team of the Department of Geography, Alia University. Once again, I warmly welcome all the dignitaries, speakers, participants, early career researchers to the academic platform and wish program huge success. I am confident that deliberations over the next 5 days at Alia University, Ghatal, Garbeta, and as well as finally at dissemination program at Kharagpur IIT will generate insightful discussions, innovative perspectives, and actionable knowledge that can contribute to more resilient river basin management and community-led flood solutions. Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
As a custom of green inauguration, we would be watering the plant, and for that purpose, I request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, and Professor Joe Ravitz to kindly water the plant. I request all the guests also to accompany them also. Now we would move with the launch of the abstract volume and the book. First, I'll request the scholars to please get the abstract volumes so that we can launch. I request the project team also to please come up on the dais so that all can launch this abstract volume and book. Dr. Aznarul Islam and Dr. Nasreen Banu, Dr. Mahboob Shahana, Dr. Pasif Tas, Dr. Ram Avtar. Request all the dignitaries to please formally launch this abstract and book, which is entitled as Plan of Workshop and Fieldwork. A huge round of applause for all. Thank you very much. Now I'll request Dr. Aznarul Islam, Assistant Professor and Co-Principal Investigator, to the theme of this program to the audience.
Assalamu alaikum. A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. With highest regards to the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Registrar, Controller of Examination, Finance Officer, Deputy Registrar, Deans, Ali University teaching and non-teaching staff, officers, resource persons, early career researchers, participants, my esteemed colleagues, and fellow project team members. I would like to introduce the theme of this particular workshop that will be going on for the coming 5 days. Climate change and disaster risks are very emerging threats in the era of Anthropocene. Natural hazards have escalated with the time, affecting the lives and livelihoods of the thousands of the people across the globe. Floods, the most common quasi natural hazard, devastating the thousands of the people every year. The Ganga Brahmaputra Meghna Delta, the largest delta in the world, with a reservoir of the most densely populated countries, including India and Bangladesh. Because of the large tropical rivers with the monsoon precipitation, negligible slope, drainage bottlenecks, tidal effects, storm surges, combined with the various anthropogenic stressors in the form of the changes in the land use and land cover, constructions of the dams and barrages, and its failure. The consequences of the floods are massive in terms of the losses of the agricultural crops, infrastructural damages, and the major restructuring of the socio-economic patterns with time. Therefore, taming the rivers and controlling the floods have been popularly done through the civil engineering measures like the constructions of the dams and barrages. That takes not only the huge monetary cost, but also the ecological cost. The negative consequences of the structural interventions gradually replace the civil structure with the bioengineering structure, like the evolution of the bioshield or the vegetation cover. Thus, shift towards a nature-based solution is observed in the recent decades in the wake of the ecological thinking and sustainable development goals. Therefore, our project, exploring the policy mobility for the local solutions and community resilience through the natural flood management, a community study, a comparative study of MerseyRiver Basin, England, and Silaboti River Basin, India, is typically based on the principle of natural processes rather than controlling the floods with the structural interventions. We have selected the two river basins, Mersey River Basin from England and Shilabati River Basin from India. Though these two river basins are hydrogeomorphologically different, the processes of the flood and their management are reviewed to know about the nature and the scope of the applicability of natural flood management strategies. The Mersey River Basin exhibits some NFM strategies like leaky dams with the tree logs that reduces the river flow and the flood intensity in the lower part of the basin. There are some other NFM strategies like the construction of the artificial ponds to store the extra water and sediment, and also the creation of the riverbank vegetation to reduce the flow rate of the riverbank, erosion and sedimentation. However, NFM in the context of Silaboti River Basin in particular and in the context of India is rare till date. People of West Bengal are familiar with the Ghatal floods. There is a popular structural interventions, Ghatal Master Plan, that aims to regulate the nature and the magnitude of the floods through river dredging and canal construction primarily. However, these measures are yet to be a reality. Floods in this area are neither possible nor desirable to stop. So, our project intends to reveal the flood as a basin and trans-basin scale process rather than a sporadic effort or the event, and that we would like to explore in the context of the Shilabati River Basin. However, the holistic perspective is needed to fix the problems of the Ghatal floods that we often know, and we are facing these things newspaper on a daily basis. In the flood-prone areas of the SRB, there are some tribal and the indigenous people who have been living with the floods with their local and indigenous knowledge bases. For example, the constructions of the skilled building at an elevated places, maintaining the boats at every household. Thus, we aim to gather the knowledges from the Shilabati River Basin and the Mersey River Basin so that the principles of policy mobility can be formed. That is our ultimate motto. And this policy mobility will certainly elevate the flood management from the perspective of NFM and traditional and indigenous knowledge base. We, being the project partners, are quite ambitious about exploring the possibility to frame a policy document for the future flood management. I hope the workshop on NFM with the Indo-British Japan initiative will find some insights from this 5 days workshop and fieldworks. Have a great exchange of ideas for the sustainable future. Thank you all of you.
Thank you very much, sir, for laying out the conceptual foundation of this important initiative. Now, I would like to invite our Chief Patron, Professor Dr. Rafiqul Islam, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Alia University, to address the gathering.
Thank you, Dr. Ishtiaq. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. As-salatu was-salam ala ashrafil anbiya al-mursaleen wa ala alihi ashabihi ajma'in. Our honorable guest from University of Manchester, United Kingdom, Hokkaido University, Japan. We have also a number of guests from our central government as well as local government, and also academicians from a number of Indian universities. My respected colleagues, esteemed faculty members, Dr. Aznarul, Dr. Nasrul, the key persons behind the project team from Alia University, distinguished scholars, experts, dear participants, students, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Good morning and namaskar. It gives me immense pleasure, and I feel distinctly honored to welcome our honorable guest to this, and all of you to this international workshop. The title of this project is very, very long, as I see here, exploring policy mobility for local solutions and community resilience through natural flood management. A comparative study of MerseyRiver Basin, England, and Shilaboti River Basin, India. We have this project basically on flood control. Apart from flood, we have also other many types of disasters which unfortunately strike us, like earthquake, famine, and many others. So I will summarize that this workshop is basically addressing one of the hazards which our society faces, that is flood. So it is in management we call under disaster management. And this workshop is jointly organized by world-renowned universities like Manchester University and Hokkaido University. We also have organizing partners like Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, Manhum Anando Ashram Nityananda Trust, MANT India, MerseyRiver Trust. So once again, I welcome all of you to this workshop and also for this project. At the very outset, I extend our heartfelt thanks, gratitude to our international partners for joining hands with us in this intellectually and socially significant endeavor. This collaboration itself sends a powerful message. What is the message? Disaster know no borders. It happens every part of the world, and therefore solutions must also transcend borders. We have our guests from England, from UK, and also from Japan. We may also have guests from many other countries. So that shows that we need to work jointly, collaborate together to address this disaster, the issue of disaster. I take this opportunity to thank our esteemed colleagues, Dr. Azharul Islam and Dr. Nasreen Banu, for being part of this international project. And I also sincerely hope that this will motivate our other colleagues to do the same at Alia University. Ladies and gentlemen, we are living in an age marked by increasing frequency and intensity of disasters, natural as well as human-induced. It happens sometimes. We have seen that. There are some disasters which are induced by human beings. Climate change, unplanned urbanization, environmental degradation, pandemics, industrial hazards, geopolitical complexities have collectively made disaster management not merely a technical discipline, but a humanitarian, social, economic, and governance imperative. Any kind of disaster is unfortunate, but that happens in each and every country. Countries like Japan, with its long experience in earthquake, preparedness and community resilience, and the United Kingdom, with its advanced research in risk assessment, policy frameworks, and emergency response systems, offer invaluable lessons to the world. Learning from such experiences is not a matter of academic interest alone. It is a matter of saving lives and safeguarding our futures. For a country like India, and particularly for regions prone to floods, cyclones, earthquakes, and heat waves, disaster management must move from reactive to proactive preparedness. I repeat here, from reactive to proactive preparedness. I would like to share some experience of mine. When I was in Malaysia, I used to drive. In Malaysia, most of the people, they drive. So when I was driving, there was a place where there was no traffic light. And I had my colleague with me, who is sitting beside me, by the side of the driver's seat. So supposedly, that was a junction. We reached to the junction. Supposedly, there should be a traffic light. So when there is no traffic light, you can imagine with the junction, there is some sort of chaos. So I told my colleague, don't you think that, was sitting beside me, there should be a traffic light here? He said, Rafiq, traffic light will come when there is an accident. When there is an accident happens, then the government will come and install the traffic light. But thanks God, accident did not happen, but the traffic light came within few days. So why should you wait for the accident happen and then the traffic light will be installed? That shows that many times we wait for the problem, we wait for the troubles, we wait for the disaster, and then we start how to overcome, how to address this issue. So that's why we should not be, of course, there are many instances where the disaster strike, we cannot control that because sometimes it's a natural, so we cannot control that. But other than having said that, many times it is possible to take precautionary measures so that even though disaster happen, that should not negatively affect us much. So that's why we need to be proactive rather than reactive. And in this case, all of us have a role to play. In particular, a university has an important role in this regard. In this university, we must not only generate knowledge. What is the main task of university? Main task of university is to generate knowledge. This is not the task of a college or school in Indian system. But in university, we have to generate knowledge. But I often say that knowledge has no meaning, no utility, no usefulness if they are not applied. So when knowledge is generated, knowledge must be applied or implemented. So I believe that this workshop is a meaningful step in that particular direction, particularly when we talk about the implementation of the knowledge. I believe this workshop will emphasize on few things, namely sharing of best practices and lived experiences. We need to share our best, what is the best practice in UK or Japan or in India. We have to share with each other so that we can learn and we can apply. Joint research and comparative studies. Capacity building of students, professionals, and administrators. Developing culturally sensitive, locally adaptable disaster management models. Such collaborations enrich our academic ecosystem and prepare our young scholars to become globally competent and socially conscious leaders. Most important, I hope this workshop will help nurture a mindset where disaster management is seen not only as a response mechanism, but as a culture of preparedness, compassion, and responsibility. Let me conclude by saying that true development is measured not by how fast we grow. True development is measured not by how fast we grow, but by how safely and more importantly, how sustainably we protect human life and its dignity. On behalf of Aliyah University, once again I express our sincere thanks and profound gratitude to our honorable guest for being with us. At the same time, I also thank Dr. Aznal Islam, Dr. Nasrin Banu, and all the others who are involved directly and indirectly with this workshop as well as this project. Finally, I wish not only for this workshop, but also for this jointly organized project a great success. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your profound insights, thoughtful reflections, and the motivation you imparted to all of us today. Now, I'll request Professor Dr. Noorul Huda Ghazi, Registrar and Dean Students Welfare, Aliyah University, to address the gathering.
Assalamu alaikum. Honorable Vice Chancellor, distinguished guest from the guest from the and other distinguished guests, my dear colleagues, the exam, the deputy registrar, the deans, under the collaborative project titled Exploring Policy Mobility for Local Solutions, Community Resilience through Natural Flood Management, a comparative study of the MerseyRiver Basin, England, and the Silaboti River Basin, India. I extend my heartfelt greetings to our esteemed partners from the University of Manchester, United Kingdom, and Hokkaido University, Japan, and sincerely thank all those who have contributed to making this workshop possible. As Registrar of Aliyah University, I am particularly proud to see our institution serving as a platform for meaningful international collaboration that addresses one of the most pressing challenges of our time: flood risk in a changing climate. Floods pose serious threats not only to infrastructure and ecosystems, but also to livelihoods, education, social stability. Addressing such complex challenges requires approaches that are interdisciplinary, inclusive, and grounded in both scientific evidence and local realities. The focus on natural flood management represents a progressive shift in thinking from controlling river through rigid structures to working with natural processes and landscapes. This approach resonates strongly with Sustainable Development Goals and reflects a growing global consensus on the importance of nature-based solutions. Equally important is the project's emphasis on policy mobility, which enables the exchange of ideas and practices across regions, while recognizing that solution must be carefully adapted in local, institutional, and environmental context. This workshop brings together scholars, practitioners, policymakers, and students, creating a vibrant space for dialogue, learning, and reflection. Such platforms are essential for translating research into practice and for building long-term partnerships that extend beyond the life of a single project. I am especially pleased that this initiative provides opportunities for early career researchers and students to engage with international experts and real-world case studies. Aliyah University remains committed to supporting academic initiatives that promote social relevance, environmental sustainability, and global engagement. Our administrative and academic teams are fully supportive of collaborations that enhance research excellence and contribute to the well-being of the communities, particularly those most vulnerable to environmental hazards. I sincerely hope that the deliberations during this workshop, formal sessions and informal interactions will generate innovative ideas, actionable insights, and strong networks of collaboration. Let us use this opportunity to learn from each other, to challenge conventional thinking, and to work collectively towards resilient and equitable flood management strategies. I wish the international workshop on natural flood management every success and look forward to the valuable outcomes that will emerge from this important initiative. Thank you and wish you all fruitful discussions and a rewarding workshop. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your valuable insights. Now, I'd like to invite Controller of Examination, Alia University, Kolkata, Professor Dr. M.D. Mehdi Kalam, sir, to please address the game.
A very good morning to all of you. Assalamu alaikum. Honorable Chancellor, Professor Rafiqul Islam, Director, Mine Lab and Laboratories of the Collective Intelligence, Professor Joe Page of the University of Manchester, Professor Noor Huda Gaji, Dean Faculty of Science and Technology, Professor Kaushik Kundu, Dr. Kollan Rudro, Chairman, West Bengal Pollution Control Board, and Professor Shahab Fazal, Chairperson of the Department of Geography, Aligarh Muslim University, Deputy Registrar Dr. Sheikh Asfaq Ali, and distinguished international collaborators, esteemed speakers, and the experts, and the dear colleague, researchers, students, and participants. A very warm welcome to all of you. It gives me an immense pleasure and deep sense of honor to welcome you all to these international workshops on natural flood management. This workshops is organized under the prestigious international collaboration projects jointly undertaken by the Alia University, India, and the University of Manchester, United Kingdom, and Hokkaido University, Japan. So flooding remains one of the most prestigious global problems and the challenges of our time, which intensified by the climate change and the rapid urbanization and unsustainable landscape practices. The conventional engineering solutions alone are no longer sufficient for these cases. In this context, this natural flood management offers a promising nature-based and community-centered approach that integrates hydrology, ecology, policy framework, and the local knowledges. This workshop is particularly sufficient as it brings together the comparative insights from the MerseyRiver basins in England and the Shilabati River basins in India, the two geographically and socio-economically distinct regions, yet beyond by shared challenges of flood risk and resilience. The concept of this policy mobility, which lies at the heart of this project, encourages us to critically examine how successful ideas, practices, and governance models can be adopted, not merely adopted, but to suit the local context. As a former coordinator of our university research program, I am particularly inspired by the interdisciplinary spirit of this project. It demonstrates that the flood governance is not merely a technical matter, but also a social, cultural, and communicative ones. Effective solutions require dialogues between the engineers, policymakers, social scientists, and local communities. They require respect for indigenous knowledges and the ability to translate research into actionable policy. Over the next few days, we will engage in interdisciplinary discussions, technical sessions, policy dialogues, and community-oriented perspectives. I sincerely hope that this platform will foster the meaningful exchanges between the scientists, policymakers, practitioners, and the local stakeholders, leading to the actionable insights and the long-term collaborations to the future of flood governance in India and beyond. I extend my heartfelt thanks to our international partners from the University of Manchester and Hokkaido University for their unwavering collaborations and intellectual leadership. I also express my sincere appreciation to all the invited speakers, resource persons, and participants who have taken time to contribute to these workshops. I would like to acknowledge and dedicated efforts of our organizing committees, especially Dr. Ajnarul and Dr. Nasreen, faculty members, research scholars, and administrative staffs whose commitment has made this event possible. With these words, I once again welcome you all and express my sincere hope that this workshop will contribute meaningful to advancing sustainable flood management strategies and strengthening the community resilience across these regions. Thank you all, and I wish the workshop every success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your words of wisdom and guidance. Now I request Dr. Sheikh Ashfaq Ali, Deputy Registrar, Alia University, Kolkata, to share his valuable thoughts.
Assalamu alaikum. Honorable Vice Chancellor, respected dignitaries, distinguished scholars, colleagues, students, and participants from India and abroad, good morning to all of you. It is a great pleasure and also honor for me to be a part of this international workshop on natural flood management, organized under the collaborative project titled Exploring Policy Mobility for Local Solutions and Community Resilience through Natural Flood Management, a comparative study of MerseyRiver Basin, England, and Silaboti River Basin, India. I extend my warm greetings to our academic partners from the University of Manchester, UK, and Hokkaido University, Japan, and commend the organizing team for bringing together such a meaningful and timely initiative. Floods pose complex challenges that affect not only our environment, but also education, livelihoods, and institutional functions. Universities, therefore, have a crucial role to play, not only in generating knowledge, but also in creating platforms where research, policy, and community experiences can interact. This workshop reflects that responsibility by focusing on natural flood management, an approach that works with nature, supports ecosystems, and strengthens community resilience. From an administrative perspective, successful international collaborations depend on strong institutional coordination, shared commitment, and supporting governance structures. I am pleased to note that Alia University has been able to facilitate this partnership, reinforcing our dedication to global academic engagement and socially relevant research. Such collaborations enhance our institutional capacity and open new pathways for students, researchers, and faculty members to engage with global challenges. The project's emphasis on policy mobility is particularly significant, translating ideas across different geographical, institutional, and cultural contexts requires not only scientific understanding but also effective administration, inclusive governance, and sustained engagement with stakeholders. By learning from experiences in the MerseyRiver and Silaboti river basins, the initiative offers valuable insights into how adaptive and locally grounded flood management strategies can be developed. Especially encouraged by the involvement of early career researchers and students in this workshop, exposure to international perspectives, interdisciplinary methods, and field-based learning will undoubtedly strengthen their academic and professional development. Such opportunities are essential for building the next generation of researchers and practitioners who can respond effectively to climate-related risks. I congratulate the organizers and partners once again for this important initiative. I hope that the discussions, exchanges, and collaborations emerging from this workshop will lead up to practical outcomes and long-term partnerships that benefit both academia and society. I wish the International Workshop on Natural Flood Management every success, and thank you all for your participation. With these few words, I conclude here. Thank you once again.
Now I request Professor Dr. Shahab Fazal, Chairperson, Department of Geography, Legal Muslim University, to say a few words.
Thank you. Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Joe Revids, other dignitaries on the dais, collaborating partners of this project from University of Hokkaido and University of Manchester. At the outset, I would congratulate Alia University for forging an alliance and academic partnership with international institutions. It's a big achievement for the Alia University that they have forged an alliance with these partners to contribute to the society. I would say that all academic institutions are meant, as the Honorable Vice Chancellor has indicated, academic institutions, especially the higher educational institutions, they are not meant only for disseminating of knowledge. They are also required to create knowledge. And in that context, I would say that it is a big initiative by the partners from Alia University and the other universities to help the society. You see, what is happening over the earth? The earth is facing great crisis, and that crisis has come because of the increase in population. Over the earth, in the last 125 years, the population from 1.4 billion, around 1.4 billion, it has reached up to 8.3 billion. That's an enormous increase. It's not only the increase, but also the spread of population to different corners of the earth. And most of this spread is on fragile ecosystem, which were earlier not habitable. So when we talk about disasters, when we talk about the hazards, it is also because the number of people over the Earth's surface has increased. Not only increased, but they are now trying to settle down in those areas which are vulnerable, physically vulnerable. If I can add here that the increase in human population is also bringing in lots of transformation over the Earth's surface. I mean to say that human beings, they are not idle. They are performing all kinds of activities. And in modern day, these activities are very intense. When I say the activities are intense, they are of higher order. They are no longer only related with the man-nature relationship where primary activities are being done. It is of higher order. All activities are now of higher order activities. And these activities, they are consuming, utilizing, and exploiting a lot more natural resources, creating man-made resources. And these creation and exploiting of resources are resulting into all kinds of transformations over the Earth's surface, which in many ways are responsible for the phenomena which we all are so concerned of, that is of climate change. Climate change is nothing. It is some erratic behavior of weather elements. Now, this erratic behavior of weather elements has happened in the past also. But that changes, that kind of transformations were more because of the natural processes. In the present climate change, it is all human-induced. So in that context, I would say that this man-nature relationship needs deeper insights as to how human beings have to evolve and adapt to these situations. And in that context, I would say that these academic interactions will draw more effective insights to cope with these situations. And in that context, I would say that it's a very great initiative by the Alia University and the other partner universities from United Kingdom and Japan, that they are forging ahead an alliance, and I'm very sure that these academic deliberations will bring in some concrete solutions to the society. I'm also tempted to say that that some of the young partners of this particular project, Dr. Nasreen Bano and Dr. Mehboob Suhana, I am very pleased and very happy to see their academic progress. You see, this makes me as a teacher very proud that the students and the young scholars, I'm very excited to listen to the speakers of this particular workshop, and I'm very sure that the outcome of this workshop would help the society, which in many ways, especially the people of the floodplain area in India, they are marginalized society which requires academic initiatives, which requires academic help to help themselves to carry forward their livelihood. I talked about climate change. They haven't contributed much for this entire phenomena, but they are more receiving the adversaries of these weather conditions in the form of climate change. So I'm very happy to be here. I'm honored and privileged to be here this morning. And I wish the program every success. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your compendious words. Sir. Now I request Dr. Kalyan Rudra, Chairman, Pollution Control Board, Government of West Bengal, to share a few words.
Respected Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, other dignitaries on and off the dais. It is really a privilege for me to be here to explore the theme of natural flood management, what I am trying to do for last 4 decades. The extreme spatial and temporal inequality of rainfall in this subcontinent creates a kind of flow in the river, what we call skewed flow. The rivers of South Asia reaches their peak during July, August, September, then drops down. And at the point of time when the river reaches its peak, there will be overtopping, what we call flood, and also the riverbank erosion, displacing large number of people. The people of South Asia, particularly Bihar, Assam, and Bengal, learned to live with flood. They had their own technique of living with the flood. But since the colonial rulers came here, they wanted to achieve freedom from flood. And they embanked many rivers, thus disconnecting the floodplain from its and beheading many channels. But after the long experience of 200 years of colonial rule and also subsequent 8 decades, we gradually realized that that had not been the correct way. We gradually realized that after the Industrial Revolution in UK, a new kind of engineering emerged in Europe that is said to be the engineering of the command and control over the nature. A group of engineers had an understanding that we can alter everything. And that philosophy of river management was also brought to this subcontinent. And that created a kind of chaos here. In spite of many structural interventions, the flood contour or floodable area expanded during the post-independence era. So a new kind of concept is gradually developing all over the world, what we call the concept of ecological engineering. We must learn to live with flood, and we will have to reduce the magnitude as well as the intensity of the flood. And for this purpose, we can find out, also explore what our ancestors did and how they learned to live with the flood. Since I will have to speak for a longer time, I will not speak here, but I clearly understand that this workshop will find some solution. May not be exactly replicable what we are doing at MerseyRiver in UK, but we can gain some of the knowledge. I also believe that Professor Joe will speak on urban flooding, and in the climate change situation, the rainfall pattern is so variable. There is a tendency of short duration, intense rainfall in this subcontinent, and our locational vulnerability of the Bengal Delta, in spite of having no rainfall, we may have flood. Just example, if there is intense rainfall at Upper Assam in Dibrugarh on Monday, the Goalpara downstream may have flood. If there is an intense flood in Koshi Valley, the Malda may be flooded within 7 days. So we have locational vulnerability too. And other issue is that our sea surface temperature is increasing, and there is an increasing tendency of cyclone formation, and we have Sundarban, a very vulnerable area. So I believe that this next few days we'll try to explore what is sustainable way to live with flood and how we can reduce the distress of the afflicted community. With these few words, I stop here. Thank you all for your patient hearing.
Thank you very much, sir. Now we have the Dean, Faculty of Science and Technology. His presentation is PowerPoint presentation. So I request all the guests to please sit off the dais so that his PowerPoint presentation can be managed. So I request Professor Kaushik Kundu sir to please start his address to the question.
Good morning, everybody. Respected dignitaries and the august audience who is present over here. As I was coming over here at the request of Dr. Azdarul Islam, our beloved colleague, I was thinking actually about an old proverb, carrying coal to Newcastle. So here I am from completely a different discipline, going to give a lecture on natural flood management to an audience who are actually pretty expert on this particular matter, because it is essentially consists of the elite educationists from the geography discipline. Anyway, so I thought that if I have to carry this coal to the Newcastle, why I don't try to sell it to the audience? Okay, so here I am. It is basically how to tame the flood. The whole thing is not coming. No. The slides are not. Anyway, so there will be a little bit problem with the PowerPoint presentation, I think technical difficulties. So my theme was basically to tame the nature. So to tame the nature, what I understood about the natural flood management from my layman's point of view is that instead of restricting, instead of resisting, why don't we use our landscape as a sponge? Why don't we imagine the planet that we are living, the areas, we can imagine it as a huge sponge and we can try to increase the capacity of the sponge to absorb waters. Right? So, turning landscape into the sponges can be a very basic thing of the natural flood management. But before coming to that, we have to admit the fact. Next slide. We have to admit the fact that the flood is a reality. As the Homo sapiens, they have changed their hunters-gatherers profession and settled. They came out of the forest and settled beside the rivers. They started using the rivers as their source of their livelihood. And we have these great river valley-based civilizations, which was the starting point of our civilization actually, or rather let us say the agrarian civilization. So if we continue to live along with the rivers, we continue to use the resources of the rivers, floods are inevitable. We cannot escape that fact. But because we have to live with the floods, at the same time, we have to think about the situation where we can control flood to minimize the damage, to our habitats. And because, make no mistakes, next slide. We have the technology, engineering on our side. So we started with a number of structural and engineering solutions. As I have also heard from our previous speakers, and I fully agree with them, that with the development and the progress of the engineering and technology, our first reaction we have to control. We have to resist and we have to control. So our technological advancement, structural engineering provided us a large number of technological solutions of controlling the flow of the river and restricting the river. And we thought that we will be able to control the floods through these mechanisms, and that we did over a long period of time. Next. Once upon a time, I don't know whether this title is still appropriate, we have this river Damodar in Bengal. We still have the river actually. And it was termed as the sorrow of Bengal. Because every year, huge amount of rainfall used to causes typical type of floods in the lower part of the south of Bengal due to this river Damodar. And historically, if I can remember, in 1914, the flood was so devastated that Damodar was bifurcated into two rivers actually. One is Mundeshwari and another is the Damodar itself, which is basically the Amta channel now. In order to stop this flood, independent India with certain foreign consultancies came out with a large plan of Damodar Valley Corporation, essentially which basically talks about the construction of 4 major, out of the 8 planned, 4 major dams, Panchet, Tilaya, Konar and Maithan. This is the Panchet Dam, and this was one of the answer to the flood in Bengal with the construction of dams. And this is the picture how dams can manage flood, creating a reservoir and then controlling the water flow. The same has been done with the Tilaya or Konar or Maithan, whose picture I am not showing over there. Next slide. Besides constructing dams, we also can construct artificial embankments that can contain the river water and restrict the flood, or we thought that it can restrict the flood somehow. This is also another structural plan. Next slide. So that the vulnerable floodplains can be avoided. And dredging is a very popular course that where we can basically pull out the sediments from the river beds. All of them are basically structural solutions. Next slide. And this is, as I was talking about, these creating diversion channels. This is the river Damodar, which has been bifurcated into Mundeshwari and Damodar River, and a large number of channels has been created. This is the paleo channel of Gangaur, that is the Geha N and Kana. Actually, Geha N is known as the Gia River locally, and this Kana N is actually known as Kana Damodar. And there are a large number of things. These are all basically artificial and restrictive solutions to control flood. But can we really control it? Number one question. Second one, are we aware about the huge amount of ecological damage that this kind of restriction create for the future civilization? So our answer lies to, the natural flood management. So to minimize the ecological damage and to go with the sustainable solutions, we can basically look towards the natural flood management, which basically involves the appropriate land usage, the ecologically and sustainable practices of controlling the flow of water, and without the solely relying on the structures like dams and levees. Next slide. So there are certain how natural flood management can work. Essentially, as from the layman's point of view, I have identified the 3 points. That is the slowing the flow, storage of the water. In the slowing the flow, we can use the vegetation, that is the trees and hedges across the shoreline, and which can also intercept the rainfall and reduce the runoff speed. We can restrict the storing wetlands, ponds, floodplains, which can temporarily hold the water in the heavy rain events. And for enhancing infiltration, we can improve the soil permeability. So, once we know how this natural flood management will work, we can identify certain land usage strategies. Next slide. So the land usage strategies basically can depend on the woodland and forestry management, which basically planting more and more trees, restoration of the peatland and the going for the contour cultivation and buffer strips and soil aeration, and finally riverbed and the floodplain recorrection. Next slide. The natural flood management interventions basically depends on the leaky barriers that will be extensively discussed. I mean, offline storage ponds and managed realignment. Everything will be extensively discussed on this next 3 days workshop, and we'll learn a lot of things from the experts who will basically lecture on it. But as I was saying, along with the new natural flood management concepts that we learn, and that will also borrow from the developed country frameworks. Let us not forget about our own sustainable technologies traditionally used by the Indians for a long period of time. I am not actually over here to give a lecture on natural flood management because the experts will do so, but I will want to showcase some of the traditional techniques used by the ancient Indians and even till date used by the rural people of different areas in India as also as the tribals for this natural flood management and the storage of water. Next slide. The first evidence of natural flood management and water storage was way back to the Indus Valley civilization, that is on 300 to 1300 BC. And long time ago, around 2005 or 6, I visited some sites of this Indus Valley civilization, that is precisely on the Harappa civilizations. Next slide. A very interesting village I traveled, which has been declared as the UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2021. This is the Dholabira. In Dholabira, what they did, basically, the ancient engineers, they came up with the 16 massive reservoirs cut out from the rock and stone. And all these reservoirs are interconnected. So when there was a heavy rain during the monsoon, these reservoirs used to store waters, and if the reservoirs are filled, the interconnections, they used to carry water from one part to another. And when the monsoon was over, particularly in the dry months, these water reservoirs used to contribute to the agriculture of the region. Next slide. Ahars and pines is extensively till date used in Bihar, particularly in South Bihar. Ahar is the storage facility, that is a particular pond, and pines are basically the canals which basically attach the ponds to the rivers. So when there is a flood, excess flood water through the canals, that is the pines, and the diversion channels enter into the particular ahars, and these ahars are the storage facilities that basically store water. And the flood is not only controlled, but we can store the water for the future use. This method of ahars and pines have been used by the Bihar rural people for the last 2000 years. Next slide. In Tamil Nadu, we have one very interesting, almost identical version of Dholabira. This particular water storage facility is called Eri. The whole land area is basically dug with a large number of areas, and all these areas are interconnected. And when there is a monsoon or the excess flood water, these areas stored waters, and they distribute through the various areas through the interconnected channels. Next slide. The name of the structure is not coming actually. Anyway, this is basically built around 2nd century AD, the Chola king, and the name of this particular structure is basically called Kalana. It is situated on the Kaveri River at Karnataka, Kallanai is basically the fourth oldest water regulator structure in the world. It is still working, actually. Although it is a structural intervention instead of the management, but it was used. The very interesting part of the Kallanai is that it actually distributes the floodwater of the Kaveri River into various distributaries of the river in a very even manner. Next. This particular Khadin or the Johad system is used in Rajasthan. One thing we have to understand, although we are going into the natural flood management system, the natural flood management system will also vary with the particular regional characters and the terrain. In Rajasthan, the soil is basically the porous type of soils. So when the flood water is coming down or the rainwater is coming down the slopes, they are basically developing this khadin, creating a khadin band that basically restricts the water. Then the water is stored in the khadins and then it is shipped to the groundwater level. And once it is in the groundwater level, it crosses the saline area. Beyond the khadin pool, people used to dig these dung wells, shallow dung wells, from where they can use the water. In one way, it is restricting or it is controlling the flood, and in another way, it is also supplying water during the dry seasons. The final and one of the most interesting, next slide. This is the Jabo system used in Nagaland. In Jabo system, the water storage facility is basically created in steps, in various steps. The picture may not explain the whole process, so there is a diagram. So it is downward direction, the forest area is there, so rainwater is seeping down through the residential areas. Beyond the residential areas, there is the permanent night shelter for the cattle sheds, and in the next, at the village outskirts, there is the roaming area of the cattle that is also known as the cattle shed. Then the rainwater crosses through this area and ultimately that goes into the siltation pond while the sediments or the heavy particles settle. And then water, if it overflows, that enters into the water harvesting pond that is basically called the Razu in Nagaland. And from the Razus, it goes into the small fish pond. If it overflows, it goes into the paddy field and then it goes into the fishery pond again. In this manner, they can not only control the flows of the water during the monsoon, but also goes for the optimum utilization of this water. In many local other areas, rural areas of throughout the India, depending on its terrain, and the tribal areas, there are a large number of other processes developed naturally by the regional tribes and the people that we need to explore. It is not only about creating peatlands, it is not only about preserving marshlands, or it is not only about creating certain leaky dams. We can explore our traditional ways, and finally, we cannot eradicate flood, but we can optimize this natural disaster into a beneficial process for the human civilization. Thank you.
Can we please call Aditi Dattu from All India Radio on the stage, please? It is our honor today to welcome Professor Rawats to deliver the keynote address. Professor Rawats is the director of Mind Lab Laboratory for Collective Intelligence and Future Cities Lead at the Manchester Urban Institute, UK. Joe Rawats is director of the Mind Lab, a global online community working on the mapping and design of pathways from smart to wise. He also leads the Future Wise Cities theme for the Manchester Urban Institute with both local and global programs. He is the author of 2 landmark texts, the new Deeper City Collective Intelligence and the Pathways from Smart to Wise, the previous City Region 2020 Integrated Planning for a Sustainable Environment, and nearly 100 publications, both academic and professional. Behind this is a journey in progress on sustainable cities and be the package now available as the Pathways Toolkit. He has advised policy and also works with business and the third sector as a principal of the non-profit strategy foresight firm SAMI Consulting. As a former architect planner, he is a keen advocate of visual thinking and foresight future methods for strategic planning and urban transformation. Joe Rawats provides review and evaluation services for many academic bodies together with keynotes and interactive workshops in many countries around the world. He is currently on the editorial board of Urban Planning and Design and the Foresight Journal, and the visiting professor at the University of Baja California, Mexico, and the University of Brawijaya, Indonesia. Today, Professor Rawats will be speaking on natural flood management in unnatural times, pathways for the collective socio-eco-intelligence. May we now invite Professor Joe Rawats to kindly grace the dais and deliver the keynote address. The podium is all yours, sir.
Thank you so much. And you caught me with this pointing to the online workspace, which I will demonstrate. This is one of a series of technical tools which we hope to use later this week. So let's go over to the presentation. There is actually, this presentation is on online workspace and also on the links here. You can see already that we are keen to, how do we say, introduce democracy into this kind of discussion. For 30 years, I've been in many academic meetings and policy discussions where we have a whole series of experts and they say things. And oh, sorry, there is no time for questions. Next set of slides. The whole through the whole conference, 2 days, 3 days, with very limited time for questions. And those questions are often, not well structured. They're just random side. Also, there are some handouts here. If someone could put these near the front, that could be useful for if anyone wants to point the QR at the references on the screen. Do you want to put these near the front if anyone wants to do that? Okay, so there is also a flyer for the most recent book and a flyer for another visual thinking stream. So, and by the way, how long should I speak for? We're running a bit late. Oh, okay, fine. Okay. So,
sorry, maybe 45 minutes and then we can have 50 minutes Q&A.
Is that okay with you? Okay.
Yeah, I think we have longer discussions tomorrow for your collection.
Yeah. Okay. So you will see the organisation, the presentation is organised into different sections. In each one, I ask you some big questions and also to myself. If you have any advice or comments or further questions, I invite you to put up your questions on the online documents, which I'll also show in a minute. And again, this is to say everybody in the room is invited to ask a question. And also, I don't have time to answer all of the questions here, so maybe other people in the room can also answer other people's questions, and so on. So we use the online medium as a way to enhance the collective intelligence of everybody in the room. Does this sound working okay? So I would like to introduce that, a global outlook and some methods and tools, and then say, okay, we have a problem. Where is this problem? I have some experience of the peri-urban, the area between the rural and the urban, and this maybe is one of the keys to the flooding problem. To illustrate that, I'll use two case studies, one in Chennai, where we did a project, a collaboration, and one from Greater Manchester, my hometown, and also mention some UK policy initiatives. Then the big question is, okay, if we are aiming to increase the resilience of these large systems of land use and agriculture and the local livelihoods of people and urbanization and so on, this is not a simple thing. There is no one simple answer in the box. So we have to start building what we call the collective resilience intelligence. And this is as old as human civilization, but it is also a new thing. How do we do that? Well, we have some experience of methods in development over now 20 years or so. Then there's a new thing on the block. It's called AI. Any in the room heard of AI? We have, and we are struggling, I have to say, in our higher education system, because AI changes everything. And at the end of this session, I'll show you a quick view of a report, slides done by AI, which we are then trying to build into our okay, AI is really clever and it gets better every day. How can we use this to mobilize the human intelligence, not just to provide more and more and more information, and not to replace the humans altogether, but to say, yes, the humans have to deal with some really big, complex challenges in politics, economics, urbanization, climate change, and so on. How best to use the AI to support that and promote it? These are really big questions. We don't have the answers. We're beginning now a program of structured experimentation. At the moment, we have a three-way collaboration with Manchester, Beijing, and here in Calcutta. So I'm very happy to be here and kick off the Calcutta side of this program, which will unfold later this week. So, and one last thing about how we do this. Well, you can see my friend here, she is called Geshika Sabina. She's at Witwatersrand in South Africa, and she asked me good questions, which are really hard. I cannot always answer them, but I may. And then again, here's the QR for the interactive document. And I invite you all to contribute comments during the session, also afterwards. I'm hoping we can continue this with the other lectures. So by the end of 2 days here, we have not only a set of slides, but we have a portfolio of interactive discussion. That's the aim. Okay, so a quick view. I don't think this is anything new to you. Some of the projected impacts of climate change and two different objectives. Well, one is the objective for modest, maybe below 2 degrees, but really unlikely at this point. And the other is at the further end of the spectrum, 3 to 4 degrees. And we know enough now to say that, yeah, this could be disastrous. Maybe it's like this. Maybe there's less feedback. Yeah, is that better? Yeah, but I think it's feeding back between this one and that one. Try that. Yeah, less feedback. Okay. Okay, here is London, underwater, not good. And here is Manchester in fire, not good, and so on. My colleagues look at tipping points at the global scale. And the first one is beginning to show signs. I will not go into the whole science of this, but our project, our contribution to this debate is basically to say, okay, let's try to connect the climatic tipping points, social instability, vulnerability of the population, and conflict zones around the world. And we can see India is rather a medium shade of blue on the vulnerability map here. And then we're drilling deeper. Here's the climatic disaster map from India. So this is not good news, I have to say. Then we have the coastal megacities project from some years ago in London. And again, we can see, yes, cities near here are at a high risk for a whole portfolio of climate-related hazards and disasters. So these are the South Asian and Southeast Asian cities which are known on this list. So this is again problematic. Our contribution, starting with the Basin project, but okay, we have contacts in a number of cities. Let's talk to them on a structured basis on the peri-urban and in particular on the climate-related risk, disaster management and resilience, such as it can be defined. And that last word is also very topical because in so many cases, it was very difficult for the cities we talked to really define where is this peri-urban? Well, we're not sure, it's kind of everywhere. And where is your climate risk assessment? Well, it's in progress, and so on. Anyway, so our main partners here were Chennai. We also had discussion in Dhaka, and also I report from Manchester. Now, a very brief overview of how we do that. It's basically to say, first we analyse the problem, then we look at the future, then we look at what might be possible and what we want, the vision thing, and then we look at the strategies. How do we do it? How do we achieve that vision? And you can see little visual templates in each of these steps and questions to be asked. These are general questions which can then be more specific. And this can be done online, offline, in a matter of hours or days or months. The big project last year was the Ukraine Circular Economy Project, which I led for the United Nations Industrial Development Organization. That took 9 months, and it was not easy, I have to say, but we have to try. This is the overview of the online workspace used in this project, and I'll explain more tomorrow, but basically there is a top bar. We have the methods, we have the stray cartoons, comments, templates for the workspace. There is a full template based on the previous circular diagram, now reproduced on the workspace. And on the left are presentations, and then we have some resources here from AI, and we have previous projects down the bottom, because this workspace always evolves. We have now something like 50 projects, main projects in the laboratory, and we don't start again from scratch each time. We say, oh, well, let's clear some space, in this factory floor, so to say. And push the old ones to the back, and they may be useful if we need them, and so on. So that's how the workspace works mainly. I'll talk about this more tomorrow. So the notion of showing this is basically to say, yeah, we're not only talking about collective intelligence, we're trying to do it. We walk the talk as far as we can, but actually we're all beginners. We know this. So we make mistakes, and we have to try things which may go not to plan, and so on. So this is where we're up to. And in every country I work, which is quite a few, the only exception, apparently, is China. And I was in Beijing not long ago on the same kind of theme. And in Beijing, there is this, oh yes, the government is in control. We have a 5-year plan. It says exactly what we will do. And so we will do it. The 100% success rate, because if we fail, we will be put in prison. So everything is fine. And of course, we have to then start a different kind of discussion in China, is to say, well, are you sure everything's fine? Let's talk about it. Anyway, so here is the first question. Well, from Geshu, if these rivers, they connect the urban and the rural. And the in-between is called the peri-urban. So who looks after that? So usually it's very unclear. In India, quite unclear, even in the UK, unclear. The best organized country in the world is China, a large country, and there it's unclear, but at least they have a policy for saying, yes, we know it's unclear and we're working on it. So this is interesting. Anyway, so we have to say, okay, so where is our problem? Where is the flooding problem? Inside the city, yes. In the rural areas, yes, but these things come together in the peri-urban. Well, so a quick overview, first on Chennai, Global South. This is one of many flip charts done in many meetings, and the situation is not good for reasons which I'm sure you're familiar with. And then we compare to the global north. Here is Manchester, my hometown. This is a small town on the north where I lived for many years. And here is another flip chart from the policy workshops. And strangely, many of the factors of vulnerability and risk seem very similar to the global south. Of course, there are big differences, income, infrastructure, and so on. But actually, the vulnerability actions are very similar. So that's kind of something to consider. Well, then we say, okay, where is the peri-urban? Here's again the contrast between Manchester and Chennai. I will not talk about the detail of how these maps are drawn, but just to say a big thank you to Dr. Mabel Sahana, who led the research team which produced these maps and spatial analysis, which is then used for other purposes, for policy analysis and so on. The big message here is to say, okay, can we start to be systematic about the spatial interconnections of upstream to downstream? And this is not a diagram of a water system, it's a diagram of risk and potentially resilience. Crossing rural to peri-urban to urban and then back down downstream. So this is simply a master map to say, okay, we can start to analyze what kind of problems, what kind of policy mix, and what kind of other influences apply in each of these different areas. Then we go back to the stakeholders and we say, can you just tell us what is on your mind? And usually at first glance, it's really complex and confusing. And this comes from a workshop in Manchester. And this was the graphic drawn from that. And you can see, yes, it's all quite complex. Everything is mixed up. These are some of the problems which they identify in the meeting. And these are more indirect problems or maybe longer term problems and so on. And the point is these things are all mixed up. Very difficult at first base to make a clear analytical structure. Even to put it on a systems map or systems model, well, you have to interpret, you have to select what is important, what is not, what is in our boundary, what is not, and so on. So this is a process. And then people say, well, actually, the problem is not only, the river has too much water. The problem is colonization by, rich urbanites, gentrification. They're taking over everything. They're destroying the local community. And suddenly the local people cannot afford to live there. So there are no plumbers, no water engineers, and so on. So that's one of many, many problems. Agricultural subsidy is another big problem. And that makes it at a national level, not at a local level. So we start to try to type and shift and sift and analyze what kind of problem are we talking about. Because that is really the first stage in saying, well, what kind of solution or what kind of response might be relevant to these problems. We see the beginning of potential pathways down at the bottom. So this is kind of one way to draw the problems, and there is no single way, best way to draw the systems map, but this is one way which seems to be effective for this kind of purpose. And what is the purpose? Basically to say, hey guys, we have a really complex situation here. Yes, it's a flooding problem. It's also a land use problem, and an urbanization problem, and a rural livelihood problem, and an infrastructure finance problem, and a whole bunch of other things. And they are all terribly connected, as we know from experience. So who can draw a map? Because until we can do that, then we're really not going to do very much in the way of solutions and responses. So if we have a flood incident, here's the analysis of, a baseline analysis of one flood incident in Manchester at the time, 4 years ago. Then we have to say, okay, we have the facts of the case, but we also have the background, the systems which are driving those problems, driving those vulnerabilities. Some of them are very local, like the drain is blocked by debris. But why is it blocked? Because local government does not have enough finance. Why is that? Because we are in a political situation of, it's a long story. So in other words, for every local problem, there is usually a bigger set of factors. This does not make our task any easier, but instead of just thinking of problems and problems, we also have to look at potential opportunities. This comes from our work with UN Habitat on urban-rural linkages, and there is a very good program of that name on the UN Habitat system, we had a large conference in China just a few weeks ago, and at this time we introduced this idea that, okay, urban and rural linkages are interesting, but we have to talk about the peri-urban because this is where the linkages are mobilized and materialized. And some of the linkages are very negative, as in the previous slide. Some can be very positive. So let's look at those again systematically: climate and ecosystems, food systems, water systems, social and community, and so on. So this is again one way to approach. And let's say now, I'll skip some of the more technical stuff here, but well, some case studies. And from experience with UN Habitat, we produce a lot of case studies and best practices. I've been doing this with UN Habitat for maybe, since 1997. And I get more and more skeptical. So, you have a best practice here, it looks very nice, and here's the website, and everything would look really successful. But you come back in 5 years later, no, other things happened, the politics changed, the money did not turn up, the technology did not work, and so on and so on. So we have to be very careful talking about best practice. And if there is one single factor of success, it's really to say, yeah, it's about getting people to work together. Then we can construct, the river diversions or the storage tanks or the sponge city urbanization and so on. But the first task is really to get people working together. Again, we can try to explore systematically ways of doing that. Okay, so first, we can look at the Chennai region, and again, this relies on these beautiful population maps. So the population between 1990 and 2015 changed massively, which you can see in the coloration of this map, meaning that the whole of this hinterland suddenly was urbanizing at a massive rate. And we can start to track the change, as you can see, the bright colors here. And then overlay the flooding map. This is a global flooding map system, so not in detail, but we get some notion of what is in store for Chennai. In other words, the massive urbanization of the hinterland then produces floods not only in the hinterland, but also right across the central city area. This is a projection, so other things can happen. Well, just from the 2015 floods, where this work really kicked off, billions of dollars in loss, and we can associate, the billions of dollars with the urbanization. So that's Chennai in context, and then we have some case studies. I'll not talk about these in detail, but you can see, yes, an ancient tank system which had many purposes, not only, physically water management, but this is disrupted and destroyed by urbanization. We can say, who is involved in this? Oh, well, here is a mapping of the stakeholders, quite a good map, actually, because it starts to say, okay, so on the policy side, the supplier side, the consumer side, we can start to unpick who is doing what. The next version of this map would then say, okay, who is dealing or interacting with who, on what basis? And of course, it gets very complex at that point. And then finally, we can say we can see from space the effect of historically rural water bodies, as you can see here, now urbanized with new colonies and enclaves all around, and a hard edge is built to the water body. And this may be good for the real estate business, but not so good for soft natural flood management. So then my colleagues are looking at, again, another water body here on the peri-urban area, and how to design the existing encroachment, or to redesign the encroachment and new development, and make a positive real estate and urban design, or let's say eco-urban design model out of this. And there's much more to say about that, but another time. So in Manchester, by contrast, okay, city of 3 million people in 10 different local authority areas. And what is interesting in Manchester is some of the resources now available to investigate what we call social flooding. In other words, flooding is not only a water event, it's a social event. And usually we find the people most at risk are the people least able to cope. Disabled, long-term health problems, houses in poor condition, maybe they have no insurance, and so on and so on. So these are then all part of the mix, and this very good map system is one part of trying to build the resources to understand the spatial distribution of that kind of phenomenon. Well, the Mersey Basin campaign, I think some of you here were part of the field trip, so this I'll be very brief. But let's say when I started working in Manchester, the Mersey Basin was very foul, toxic chemicals, overflows blocked, regular flooding, not only with water, but with toxic material, and so on and so on. Stemming from, the industrial history of Manchester as the world's first fully industrial city. The Mersey Basin campaign is one of the big success stories. How did it work? And this is all I need here now. There's leadership, there's vision. People are more important than structures. What does that mean? Well, we need the structures. We have a committee looking at this, area and so on, have a partnership or forum. But actually, if we enable the people to do what they really want to do, say what they really want to say, ask the hard questions. And if we have, for example, well, now in the UK, you might know the water is privatized. And there's a regulatory body, to try and make sure it does the right thing, which is now failing. Our biggest water company in the London area, London in the southeast, has been on the point of bankruptcy for some years now. Too big to fail. It's a real problem. And the question is then, okay, so if poor low-income people out there with no insurance at risk of flooding, what can they say to the water utility, which is an industry of several billion turnover, and the chief executive, will he come to the meeting, he or she? Well, maybe some representative will come. And how do you have that conversation between people whose lives are threatened and other people whose lives are threatened? And well, I'll leave. But you could say, okay, it was right time, right place. The UK was ready for clean-up in a bunch of ways. We were de-industrializing, so to say. We were exporting a lot of our industry to India, Bangladesh, Southeast Asia. So actually we were lucky. It's not simple to say, oh, every country should do the same thing. Yeah, this is our experience, and maybe we were not only just lucky, but also there was some involved in finding the right format, so that it was politically the right thing to do. The money could be found, the people could be mobilized, and so on. Some of that then comes to the bigger concept of resilience. This is one strategy on a page from the Greater Manchester Resilience Strategy. What is interesting about this is the headings in the red writing on the right-hand side. The rest of it is too small to read. But we can say, yeah, this is interesting because it's not just talking about flood, fire, industrial hazard, and so on. It's talking about people and communities. And how do people learn? How do they get the information? Are the people mobilized in this place or that place? And if not, how do we enable them to mobilize and connect with each other and promote a mutual aid from the stronger to the weaker, from the richer to the poorer, and so on. Not to say that we can answer all of the problems of society, but this is one way to go about it. So I can recommend, if anyone is looking for a resilience strategy on a page, then have a look. And this was also connected with the 100 Resilient Cities programme, which I finished, but also Chennai was one member there. Just one or two other examples from the UK. So we have a Nature Futures framework, which tries to ask some of these bigger questions from a futures perspective. And why future? Well, because it takes a long time to do natural flood management, because urbanization is changing, land use and agriculture are changing, demographic change, and so on. And climate change, obviously, is not going to get less, it's going to get bigger. So a futures framework seems unavoidable if we're going to make sense of these very big challenges. So you can see from the diagram, there is basically three paradigms of valuing nature, either for culture or for society or for nature in its own right. I'll leave that there, but if anyone is interested, we can talk more. We can also recommend the DEFRA, Department of Environment, system toolkit. You can just find that online very easily. And again, we are trying, 10 years later, to get systems thinking fully into policy. Because policy tends to react. And as we know, we're lucky to live in a democracy, but it means everything has a 4 or 5 year time horizon. And the civil servants, basically, they have to do the day job. How do we fix this problem and that one? And there's a bad press in the newspaper today, so let's react. So systems thinking, again, is one way to look at the bigger picture and to look, if we're doing flood management, we look at the whole catchment. Inspired by the EU Water Framework Directive and integrated catchment management. And in our various projects for the Department of Environment and their agencies, we said, oh, how is it going on the integrated catchment management programme? I said, well, it's nice in theory, but the practice does not really happen like the theory. So, okay, there's more to be done. Finally, I can recommend my own consultancy produced the Futures Framework for the UK Government Office of Science, based on the best current futures thinking. Here's the famous futures cone. And it's a very well organised set of packages. Each package has a selection of tools with practical guidance, how to use them, and how to apply them to any particular practical problem. My friends in Beijing are now looking at this and saying, okay, we want to translate to Chinese, but also translate to Chinese culture. That's a bigger job. Okay, so then, well, how do we work together? Usually the first question is, how do we find the money? Because if the money is there, it's much easier to work together. This is a known fact. And I'm sure the policy people in the room might agree. So again, this is work in progress. Some results so far, but also some challenges emerge. Now, this starts with the idea of resilience, which in our country is a very topical theme. Everybody wants to do resilience. So, okay, can we have some money for resilience, please? Well, what do you need? How do you, who is going to be more resilient if you get this money, for example? So we have to start asking these really difficult questions. And as you see, here's the billionaires having a nice picnic with champagne. Here's the people working to support the world, and so on. Now, that's just a cartoon, but there is some grain of truth. First, we have to talk about values. And again, this is my interpretation from a project done in Europe 10 years ago. And we say, okay, let's talk about the values in terms of function. We can actually list out the functions according to the ecosystems valuing framework. And then we talk about something else, which is how do people relate? How do they form relationships with what is going on here? Now, the peasant in the village may have one kind of very powerful relationship, but we know it's not only material, it's also spiritual and cultural. The people in the cities who go driving into the natural area to have a good time, they have another kind of relationship. It's not good or bad, but it's maybe very strong. So we have to start valuing those different, more connected kind of relationships in a way which makes sense to the calculus of value and therefore informs the business model for investment. And first of all, we have to say, who should be involved? Well, here's a very simple map of the stakeholders in the natural capital investment plan, so-called. And here are different models ranging from the financially ready to invest to the low priority but very important. So we can say, with low and uncertain revenue streams. So for example, the models for physical and mental health, very difficult to find the money because it's not easy to quantify mental health and the financial contribution of this, in contrast to other things which maybe are more direct and tangible. Not to say that they are right or wrong, but just to say they are different. So by doing this, we are trying then to distinguish different business models, public investment, philanthropy, responsible investments, and community investment, and start to be more systematic about how this can be arranged. Again, work in progress. In Wales, we're working on a very interesting new initiative, a natural capital bank. If natural capital exists, well, let's have a bank. People can invest and loan and all functions which we might expect. So if we come back to resilience and say, okay, we have different models on the table. And here on the left, we have something like an engineering model, because it's based on a hard calculation of this is your cost, this is your benefit, therefore we can afford so many tons of concrete to put in the barriers and protect, so many houses, and let's hope that they are in the right place, but maybe not. And in the meantime, government is not really well organized, it's all in departments which do not really talk to each other. So again, if we are trying to change the game here, we say, not only we have an integrated catchment management plan where the upland rural areas are connected by policy, by investment, by infrastructure if needed, by food systems and so on. They are connected to the urban areas. The government is connected. Each department is part of a whole, not simply in its own silo or box. So this is a cartoon version, clearly. Then we could get more systematic and say, okay, what about a system model? So if we try to analyze the risk, we say, okay, if we do a risk tree, which is the kind of starting point for the engineering approach, no disrespect to engineers in the room, by the way, we need you, but to say, yeah, there is also a bigger picture, and this is one attempt to sketch, how that bigger picture works. So then we begin to see on the right-hand side, oh, okay, if this drain is blocked due to lack of finance in local government, okay, this is an immediate physical problem, but it is also a strategic problem. Maybe we need to work on both sides, and so on. And maybe the simple calculation of risk, which is used in public policy all over, certainly in the UK, here is your problem, calculate the exposure, the vulnerability, the hazard, and that is your risk, 63% in 20 years or something. We need a more evolved kind of learning process, not only to say, where is the material factor, but how does that fit into a bigger system? It does not make the task any easier, but it makes it more useful. Again, we start to ascertain questions of adaptation. Adaptation to what? Who adapts? Who decides? And we then on the right-hand side, put up a different set of answers to the same questions. Who decides? All stakeholders in full deliberation and participation, which does not only mean, oh, you come to our meeting and here's the poster, here's the presentation. It means we have to have a process. I think, well, this is where we in the UK, we need to learn from you guys in India, because this is a long tradition, and I hope to find out more in the coming days. So how do we then structurally analyze this kind of thing? Well, we can say, here's a map of the stakeholders in the adaptation process. And again, many things are going wrong. The money is not there, the politics is not right, inequality is built into the discussion, the interests of landowners come first, and so on and so on. So if we want to change that, we cannot say to everybody, oh, let's all agree on something. It doesn't usually work in my quite long experience. What we can do is to say, well, maybe these people could work with those people in here on this kind of agenda. Maybe the other people could work with the other people on another kind of agenda. And let's discuss. Let's make sure we take the time to do this properly. It depends on the scale of the thing, but it can take an hour. Much better if it takes more. And we can see on the right some patterns of synergies start to emerge, where people can agree on this much. The chief executive of $1 billion company can agree on this much with the poor peasants who are in his way, for example. And we hope they will agree also, because again, this is a real world activity. We do not expect miracles. We do not expect to change capitalism overnight. We do expect to move forward. And also not just to say, one step, but also to say we have some sense of where we want to go. So these are the pathways, so-called, which then evolve out of the analysis of the synergies between the actors or stakeholders. So this is the basis of the method which we have been developing for some time. And we can start to say, okay, there are 3 stages in this. One is to say, here's a functional system. Oh my God, there's a flood. Let's build a wall as fast as we can. Another is to say, it's an evolutionary thing, where we say, who can make the most money out of building a wall? This, in our neoliberal society, is often how things work in reality. And then the 3rd stage is more like the code stage. We say, okay, what happens if we process on the previous slide, start to look for synergies right around the room. If people don't show up, we will do it, for them as far as we can, and so on. So this is then the co-evolutionary path towards equality, empowerment, inclusion, etc., etc. Not to say it's simple and easy, but this is the direction of travel. This can then apply to economic systems, technology systems, political systems even, and so on. And again, nothing is simple. We cannot say, oh, okay, everybody in Calcutta, come to my meeting, and we'll all decide together what to do. Doesn't quite work like that, but we can start to build this into the process more than it is already. And again, that will not be easy and simple, but if we know where we are trying to get to, then we have more chance than if not. So there is a more structural analysis of this in this kind of table and many more, which I'll skip for the moment. You can find these in the book. The final section. Well, we're experimenting with foresight, and this basically means looking into the future to see the possibilities. What do we want? How do we do it? Okay, the new thing on the block is AI. So I'll say a few words about that and give one kind of quite disturbing example. Now, probably there's too many slides here, so I will just move very quickly. The first thing in looking at the future is to say there are alternative futures. It's not a done deal. Uncertainties are everywhere. We can start to type and structure these uncertainties, and there are many methods for doing this. And here's one example from a food project in the UK. And we say, okay, what if things are top down? And what if we have the government in charge? What if corporates are more in charge? We have a different kind of vision. What if things are more bottom up, grassroots, so to say? And here is one example, which is kind of low tech, unimproved. Many people are still very hungry and banging on the side of the road. And also maybe we have some kind of utopian vision. So if I say to my sustainability friends, oh, which kind of future do you think we're heading for? And they say, oh, we like the one on the lower left, the local communities. Yes, we all believe that. But actually, the reality is more like the opposite. Large corporates are taking over the world, and certainly in many parts of the world. India here may be one exception, which is really important. But the corporates are running the food systems. If you come to the UK, 95% of the food consumed is sold through 6 main supermarket chains, and they get all their food from the industrial food system. Most of it, nearly all of it, is full of additives, which are now known to be damaging the health, not only physical but mental health. And everybody in the UK is now full of plastic inside their body. Even their brain is full of microplastics. This is a result of the global food system. So we can say, yeah, we have a lot to think about. We cannot solve this problem right now. But this is the kind of future. Now, where this starts to come into a project method, such as this one, we can say, okay, here's a small map of the different kinds of knowledge coming from different places, with different stakeholders involved, and maybe they will have different objectives, some of them economic, some of them political, some of them cultural, and so on. And we can see in the middle a simple symbol like that to say, sorry, somehow or other we need to start connecting all these. Now, this is not a map of connections, it's simply a map of possibilities. If this week's program was fully 101% successful, we would end up with a real map at the end of the week on the online workspace. But we'll see how we go. It's not such an easy thing to do. But again, if people are tracking the lectures and presentations and also the field trip, then we can start to fill in some parts of this kind of map. So there's more to say for maybe another time. But then we say, okay, let's just check what we're trying to do here. Again, in the 3-part scheme, the co-evolutionary framework. So we can say, okay, if we are simply fixing a problem, It's one kind of thinking pattern. Here's the problem, here's the solution, let's do it, problem is solved. Okay. If the problem can easily, we get that done. We know from experience, really nothing is so simple. So again, we have to start thinking in another way. Now, I say start, this has been going on it's as old as human civilization. So it's not to say, oh, suddenly here's the answer to everything. It's new. This is actually quite old. But we have to sometimes revisit and rediscover and reapply to the systems that we have in place. And, well, there are methods of doing this, which, again, I think I will just be very brief now. This is the cartoon version of the process in 4 main stages. There's one new small bubble on the right, so include the AI. We're still figuring out the best way to do that. And these are the 4 stages in the cartoon version. And then we come back to the map which you saw before, the 4-part process with its templates and its general questions. And then say, okay, now we have AI on the table. Very powerful. Our university people are saying, are we going to be redundant in 10 or 20 years from now? I don't know how it works in India, but I had a student who was struggling with a dissertation. So I put her topic into the AI, and in about 3 seconds, the AI came back with a much better version of what she was trying to do. It was a higher second-class degree level. This is really scary. So now what do? Do we simply, get the AI to write the dissertations? Or do we rethink what we are trying to do? What is the nature of the knowledge which we are trying to share and enhance all round? Anyway, so this is a general map, not to go into the detail here, but you have the 4-part circle in the middle, and then we have a process of consulting the humans at each of the 4 stages, or rather enabling the humans to have a more informed discussion using the results of the AI. So, and this then is the beginning of that process where we invite comments and questions on the online form. Then we have a quick look at what the AI might say. So this is all artificial. I've not produced these slides. You have to mess around with them to get them looking just right, but the AI decides what color it will be and how to organize the topic. So I'll not talk about this, but without asking, they found the great example from Gorakhpur and so on. And without asking, they found some examples from Chennai and they have a roadmap, looks pretty good, and success factors and risk factors and so on. All this is artificial. You can do it yourself if you want. You type in the question and you'll get maybe a different result, maybe the same. Now, so our question is, and again, I'm a beginner on this, hoping to learn from anybody in the room, to say, okay, now we have this capability, so what do I do? What do we do? How do we ensure that this capability can be built in to the policy process, the business calculations, the investment model, spatial analysis on GIS or something, and especially the participatory process. Can we bring this to the villagers in West Bengal in some shape or form that is useful to them? I don't know, but I think we should try. So really that's about it. I could say some wise words, but I think let's finish the presentation there. Just the commercial break looks like this. The big book is the most interesting, I can say from experience, also available in Vietnamese, maybe in Chinese soon. And yeah, that's the end of the presentation. Now, maybe at that point, I'll go back to the screen here. So if anyone does want to load up any of the, follow up any of these links. So I hope that makes sense. And it's all work in progress. So any questions? And if you don't have time to ask a question now, you can put it online. even better, actually, because then we can start to track it, analyze it, and so on. Mabel, you have a question?
Yeah, so as I'm working with you for more than 6 years, and so we work for solutions for pre-urbanizations or enterprise locations in global cities. I think in my opinion, do we need microphone? Yeah, so my question is like, as you are working, before that, if I have some time to introduce you, because I was working with you for 6 years, I came to know from you that you travel from UK to India through Iran and this place by cycle in 1979 or something?
73.
73, and you stayed in Banaras for more than 3 to 4 years. Explore India, and you have seen India for more than 4 decades, and different changes, different governments, governing systems, and different development systems. So just India when it started after the colonizations, its own independent era of Nehru, and then developmental phase of Indira Gandhi, and now you are seeing India is much more new liberal. Investment, lots of places, Delhi, you have seen Delhi for 4 decades. So how do you think Indian environmentalism is changing for last 4 decades, and where you can see the global, what we have saying that policy mobility, global conditions, and then how in our project we are saying that, okay, we need our indigenous knowledge systems, which is the basics, which is the core for thousands of years in India. And is it the time, real time, what you have described so long, of collective intelligence, of threats of AI, and how, when, and what are the possibilities for this indigenous knowledge system, which is unexplored throughout the world, in Brazil, in Congo, or in some places somewhere in the world, and also in India. So what are the possibilities in the futuristic AI systems to read, reanalyze of future threats, vulnerability, and disasters?
That's a huge question. It will take about 3 hours to answer that. But first of all, the question of using AI to help indigenous peoples, say what they want to say. This is not so easy, not so simple, simply because AI can only work on things which are already online. And this is why there is a Western English-speaking colonial bias, I have to say, in what the AI will come up with. If it's online and in a major language, usually English, then yes, fine. If it is not online and spoken by a tribe, to the west here, that's a problem. Now, that's the first thing. So again, we have to say, okay, AI is not going to tell us the answer for the tribal peoples. Only they can start to do that in discussion with all of the different stakeholders which are putting pressure on them, or maybe opportunities for them, etc. So nowhere do we have the answer there. I think your other question was very broad. How has environmental policy developed in near here? Fantastic things, they seem to be working. Can they cope with severity of floods, of water coming down from the Himalayas, the third ice cap? Well, I'd have to ask the expert. But certainly in large rural areas, the great progress is being made, and we could learn in the UK and Europe about how this works and why it works, and then bring that knowledge back to our system, which is very highly structured around land ownership, agricultural subsidies, export markets. The food system is a big deal in the UK. Let's say it seems impossible to make any real progress on natural flood management without talking about the food system and then landowning system, which then interacts with the real estate and urbanization and with social and economic change in those areas, and the peri-urban effects, which I mentioned, etc. So let's say, take one example. One of the big problems for water management, river management, is now debris and waste. And somewhere in the system, there are pictures of, huge piles of plastic bottles, which end up in the water, and all kinds of other stuff. And we say, oh, this is partly because we do not have the right kind of economy. Our economy is based on, profit and production and make, take and dump, so to say. So of course, all the bottles end up in the water supply sooner or later. Could we envisage another kind of economy which did not produce so much waste, and therefore they would not be there blocking up, the water system? So that's one example of a line of thinking which say, okay, the solution to flood management may not just be in flood management. It may be in other parts of what is going on. And then we can start to say, in some countries, the circular economy of near zero waste is well advanced. In others, it's still a way to go. Now, I'm not going to make any comments, about local conditions because I'm not even a beginner. But we can see, yes, there is a lot of plastic bottles around. And we have a lot just for this meeting, all these plastic bottles, for example. Could that be done in a different way? Well, could people bring their own water supply, for example? Just, but sometimes very simple things could have big effects if then scaled up. So that's just one example on environmental policy, I think, is very much work in progress. And it's a long story. I hope that responds to your question somehow. Yes, please.
Professor, thank you for that very informative and brilliant lecture. I am completely from a different discipline. I ask you something which is very basic. Could you please enlighten? I am from the humanities, English specifically, and cultural studies. So while we are also working on the alignment of environment and humanities, so environment and humanities, from there, you see, we look into the role of humanities, how does it contribute to such kind of awareness? My question to you is that in UK, say, when you are working in and around the Mersey Basin, while you talk about, you see, the stakeholders and the common residents and acceptance of the policies which are handed down to them, so how do you reach to them, sort of, and whether do they accept the policies which are given down to them? And how do you do that, if at all, if they are done? So what is the conduit? What is the medium? And does it in any way the humanities have a role to play over there? So that's my questions.
A very good question, thank you. Yes, so there is a formal system of partnerships and forums, community meetings. So if anyone has a problem or a worry or something, they say, oh, come to our community meeting. It's once per month or something, and you'll get free cups of tea and biscuits. And then you can say, okay, tell me what you're thinking about. Do you have a good idea or a problem, and so on. So we try to do that where possible. However, there are structural barriers, it has to be said. And the barriers are not only who has time to come to the meeting, but also the way that our services and our government bodies are structured. So I'm running a project called Local Wise, which is trying to look for alternatives, because we can see in our neighbourhoods of Manchester, for example, we have all these different services, each doing their thing: health, education, police, transport, housing, etc. They are really not joined up, so to say. And because they are not joined up, the citizens on the streets, the residents, So, well, where do I go? I have a problem, but where do I go to? Nothing is working. There's no meeting room. And so on. So we're trying to join them up horizontally between the organisations, vertically between the centre and the periphery, laterally with all the big stakeholders, and then also in the grassroots sense to say, yeah, we need the mobilisation doors for mobilisation for the residents and the citizens and the local businesses and so on. So this is, again, work in progress. We can point to some good examples. But then on a flood question, for example, my friend did a project where he was basically taking the flood policy and subsidies available to people in low income areas, in high areas of high flood risk in North Manchester. And the geography is, there's a river basin, it was industrial, the factories were closed, and then they built some housing very fast, low quality, and then put the poor people in there. And then people acquired the housing, so it's privately owned, and many of them have no money, so have no insurance. Oh, okay. So my friend was going door to door, knocking on the door, said, we've come to offer you a package of flood mitigation. So here's a barrier to go on your door. Here is something, to waterproof things and make your kitchen more resilient, and so on. And half the time the people say, sorry, no, I'm not interested. I have too many problems. So they shut the door. And this then became a syndrome which we try to address. I think in terms of good examples, we find more participation in middle or upper income areas. So there are nice best practices, which you can see on the website, and a few will work in low income areas, but not so many. So then we have the best practice syndrome. The people who start the project are so desperate to make it, work. They will do anything, present a beautiful report, a shiny website. Oh, our project is really good, it's the best. We know in reality it's not, but we have this certain effect of inflation of reporting and expectations. This is also a problem. Anyway, I'll leave it there, but thank you for your question. Yes.
Good afternoon. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. I have an observation followed by a question. So I want your, I have an observation followed by a question, particularly with reference to the last part that you touched upon, like use of AI. So I have used the AI in some of the community-based research, working with the tribal groups, particularly in connection to understand the indigenous knowledge system, which is transgenerational in nature. But the problem I found is basically AI fails to understand the fundamental posit of ontology, what constitutes knowledge. Then there is an epistemic challenge. This is number one, because AI is not being a cognitive agent. It's very difficult to rely on what AI generates as content, because AI is as good as the large language models, which basically is the driving force. So the kind of data, human-generated data, on basis of which the models are trained, AI is as good as to produce the result on the basis of that. So having said that, even I faced another problem. The same tribal groups which exist in West Bengal, they also exist in other states like Odisha and Madhya Pradesh. But their livelihood, their entire cultural system and the social structure, they differ. But when I use AI, they tend to homogenize this entire tribal group across different spatial regions. So do you think in future, when there will be community-based research, particularly using the community knowledge, the impetus on feeding the AI system with more and more relevant data will be much more important. Like the AI system, the neural networks that runs the AI, they do not have substantial community and ethnic data. So do you think that that's the fundamental challenge to use AI in a community-based research?
That is certainly one of the challenges. And can I ask you quickly, how many of the villages have Wi-Fi and smartphones or some kind of device?
Nowadays, the penetration of the broadband is quite good. At least I have traveled in at least 18 villages in West Bengal, in 3 districts. Connectivity is okay, so they can access. So that's not an issue. In Orissa, there was some problem, but still, it's available at the primary functionalities, etc. That can be accessed.
And then, well, just to comment, and I think we're all beginners on this because AI is only 3 years old that the first general open access system became available. So we are just experimenting now, but the problem is AI will deliver you information if you ask a question. You type your question in the box, the answer comes back. Okay, but for many people, this is not how they work. They do not think in terms of, a text string, and then they will not really get what the interests and different way of communicating what they're thinking and feeling. Well, this may take some time to overcome. Now, what we can envision, maybe, is another AI which works, through pictures and activities. And just for example, there's some very interesting work going on in the remote areas of China. I mentioned China before. Apparently, very well planned nation, very orderly. Such as the remote areas, which are rural, out migration, so demographic decline, and infrastructure falls to pieces, and so on and so on. So they have a 10,000 villages program, which is partly led by digital technology, broadband, smartphones or other devices, Internet of Things and sensing, and now AI. So the promise is, if a farmer in the field, still digging with tools from 1,000 years ago, they see, oh, there's a strange color on their crop. They take a picture, it goes back up the chain to some central scientific laboratory. The laboratory will come back with AI in a matter of minutes and say, yes, you have a problem. Can you take some more pictures? More pictures. And then the AI will say, yes, I think you need this, treatment. It arrives by drone the next day into the hands of the peasant farmer. So this is one, small example of how they are trying to use the digital to help people out in the fields. Now, there is much more, on traditional cultures and mythologies and social systems and so on, and I'm hoping to learn in the coming days. But this is maybe our direction of travel, which is to say, if the digital can help with really practical things, like here, made this a big priority. So yeah, not only we have the level of activity, but we empower them with information and sensing material and participatory and so on. So in fact, the best sensors of change in the local ecology or land use are the people who are there, if they are there. So let's empower them to do that and be part of a big, online system, tracking change and then responding. So I can see the possibilities. I don't have any concrete examples yet, but I'm sure they will happen very quickly. So thanks. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we're running out of time. So, yeah. So if there are any more questions, please put them on the online system and then we can consider and engage there. So thank you very much.
so much, Professor Ravitz, for your inspiring and thought-provoking lecture. Your reflections have not only broadened but also encouraged us to rethink the ways in which we engage with contemporary challenges. It is now our privilege to invite Dr. Ram Mukhtar, Associate Professor, Faculty of Environmental Earth Sciences, Hokkaido University, Japan, to kindly deliver the vote of thanks and formally conclude this inaugural session.
Thank you. Respected Vice Chancellor, Honorable Dignitaries, esteemed guests, distinguished speakers, colleagues, students, and participants. It is my great privilege to propose this vote of thanks at the conclusion of this inaugural session of this international workshop on natural flood management organized under the collaborative project exploring policy mobility for local solutions and community resilience through natural flood management. A comparative study of the MerseyRiver Basin, England, and the Silaboti River Basin, India. So on behalf of the project partners, I express my sincere gratitude to Professor Dr. Rafiqul Islam, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Alia University, for his visionary leadership and unwavering support, which have been instrumental in the success of this workshop. And I'm deeply thankful to distinguished guest, Sri Manish Jain, IAS, Additional Chief Secretary and Waterway Department, Government of West Bengal, Dr. P.V. Secretary, Minority Affairs and Madrasas Education, Government of West Bengal, Professor Dr. Nurul Huda Ghazi, Registrar Officiating, Alia University, Kolkata, Professor Dr. Saifullah, Dean, Faculty of Humanities and Language, Alia University, Kolkata, Professor Dr. Kaushik Kundu, Dean of Science and Technology, Alia University, Kolkata, Professor Dr. Muhammad Mehdi Kalam, Controller of Examiner and former Coordinator, University Research Program, Alia University, Kolkata, and Dr. S.K. Asfaq Ali, Deputy Registrar, Alia University, Kolkata. And I would like to extend a special thanks to our host institutes, Alia University for its excellent organization and warm hospitality, our academic partners, the University of Manchester, UK, and Hokkaido University, Japan, for their strong collaboration and shared commitment to advancing knowledge on nature-based flood resilience. My sincere appreciations goes to all the speakers, panelists, and participants in this in their valuable contributions, stimulating discussions, and thoughtful engagement. I'm thankful to our International Research Associate, Dr. S.K. Azim Ali, for his valuable contribution throughout this journey of successfully completing the project task. I also acknowledge the dedicated efforts of research assistant from Alia University, Dr. Arindam Roy. I must appreciate the organizing committee, Dr. Nasreen Banu, Dr. Ajnul Islam, Dr. Fasak Das, Dr. Mehboob Sahana, Dr. Nirmalya Mukherjee, the contributions and coordinations, research scholar and support staff, Dr. Mr. Soumitra Mandal, Mr. Rakib Sarkar, Ms. Saleha Khatun, Mr. Sohel, Mr. Suman Dev Burman, Ms. Susmita Ghosh, Mr. Abdul Maan Sahib, Mr. Paramita Sarkar, Mr. Sosundar Bawal, Dr. Ria Naskar, Ms. Kasmira Akhtar Banu, and Mr. Abdul Rahman, who were really instrumental for arranging every itinerary of this workshop, who worked tirelessly behind the scenes. Without their active support, this program could have not been possible. We also thank our media partners, Akashvani and Doordarshan Kolkata. We thanks print media, Telegraph, and Cover Column. We would also like to thank all the teaching, non-teaching officers and supporting staff of Alia University. And finally, I thank everyone for making this workshop
a meaningful platform for knowledge exchange, policy learning, and international cooperation. And I hope the discussions and network formed here will lead to lasting collaboration and impactful outcomes. Thank you very much all.
With this, we break for tea. We request all our esteemed guests and participants to kindly proceed to the foyer for refreshments. Kindly reassemble in the auditorium at 1:40 for the first technical lecture. Thank you.
लगती है